Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brace for Impact. And where are we going today? I don't even know. This is an introduction. Benny's here somehow, still waving. Of course,
Yeah,
we're kind of losing our minds.
yeah,
We've been talking on the sidelines for a little bit here. A lot of the stuff just dropped like 10 minutes before we
yeah.
were
I,
going to
I'm
start the podcast.
convinced that teams are now waiting until we record Brace for Impact to just drop stuff. Now, I'm convinced.
Well, I mean, the biggest news we can start off with right off the bat is not LCA news. I was going to make a joke about LCA news, but that's other stuff. No, the biggest news is Copenhagen Flames file for what you say is Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I don't know
Yes,
bankruptcy
I think
layers.
I don't know if it's officially Chapter 7, but based on what it is, it looks like it's Chapter 7.
And do you mind
So,
explaining that just a tiny bit? We're not going to
okay,
go
yes.
too deep, but like
No,
give
not
us
at all.
surface level.
So there's two main types of there's more than two chapters of bankruptcy, obviously, but there's two main types of bankruptcy, right? There's Chapter 11, which is that you are looking for somebody to come in to buy the company at a massive discount, go through restructuring,
Yeah,
and then it's basically like administration in the UK. If you ever hear the
right,
term that a club or a company's gone into administration, somebody comes in to buy the club, they restructure the company, and then the government kind of like pulls, and the courts kind of pull out and let the company then function, and it
right,
stays alive with that investor that comes in and buys the company and restructures it. But usually they trim a ton of the fat, and it's like a shadow of its former self.
right.
Um, Chapter 7 is, and Chapter 11 can become Chapter 7 at some point, but
Yes,
Chapter 7 is full liquidation. Like it's over. Like everything you have to weigh all the an estate when someone passes. You
right.
now have to levy all the debts and all the creditors on one side and all the assets on the other, and you pay as many creditors as you can with the assets, and everybody else that doesn't get paid is flat out on their ass, right?
Yeah,
So, and essentially, lastly, like I said, if a company goes into Chapter 11, Bed Bath and Beyond is a really good example of this in America right now because they're going through Chapter 11. If
yeah,
no buyer comes in and they have to sell all their assets and completely liquidate the company, and they have more debt than assets, then they become Chapter 7. So,
right.
um, I think that's why I'm like, I don't know. Now that's American law. Obviously, Copenhagen's based in Denmark, so it might be different.
Something
But
different. Yeah,
yeah, but essentially, bankruptcy works much the same way. And in the note, he said that in the note that the Copenhagen's owner said that he's basically had to lay off all the staff, all the
yeah,
teams. So that would indicate to me that there's no buyer coming in,
yeah.
and this is going to be the full liquidation of the company.
And I mean, this isn't the first team in Denmark specifically, but it's not the first we kind of heard about this. We've heard before with Copenhagen Flames and other kind of scenarios where
It
they,
didn't happen to Trick, like just
yeah, Tricked, I believe, were kind of on that route. Astralis were worried about going into heavy debts and might have had to. Heroic, I think, were the same. It's weird to say, but it seems as if a lot of the Danish teams are getting hit very hard right now, and that might be their own microcosm of things. Like their wages are certain, like they don't have enough money coming in compared to what they did when they initially started these teams. There's a whole bunch of factors that kind of lead into this, but one of the things you kind of look over as an overall overarching kind of storyline is Denmark is one of the strongest places for Counter-Strike in terms of
yeah,
esport, and considering they're getting hit so hard, this is like the third, fourth strongest team in Astralis, like in terms of just being or in Astralis in Denmark, behind Astralis and Heroic. In no particular order, of course. Heroic are definitely the better of those two teams now. But
right. So I think the big thing to pull it into the impact scene, though, is that there is a team now that is just completely free agents, right? Like
yeah,
obviously, you had the Copenhagen Flames women's team, Shield Maidens, I believe they were called,
yep,
just recently in the impact scene, and the expansion of EU begged the question, like when ESL decided they were going to expand the EU Impact League, like was it because I mean, yes, it's because there's more teams, right?
yeah,
And generally, yes, it's because the region's more competitive, right? But it's like now, are you doing that so you can bring in all these teams? Are you doing that so that you have these guaranteed like organizations and the roster?
yes,
What is that? What is that gonna? What effect is that gonna have in a season 4? Is what I'm curious of, right? I think the lineup can be signed. I mean, they're semi-competitive. They play
Yeah.
decent Counter Strike, but Copenhagen kind of had the same mantra where they develop talent in these rosters and then they sell them to for a premium,
Yeah.
but they paid for them, and that's
That
kind of
that flows their operating
yeah,
costs.
that's how they've generated money a lot of the times,
Yeah.
right? So now it's like, and the women's team was no less. Like they had Kiara and Naomi, right? And they sold them to NIP, and now they brought in new players. I know they were looking at AIM, I think specifically, and it's like, what happens to that roster? Because a roster that's built to just churn talent is not going to be a roster that competes at the highest levels,
Yeah.
right? Because you're always looking to develop talent. It's kind of like I look at the comparison to me would be like Southampton in the Premier League, right? Who are
Yeah.
oddly enough bottom of the Premier League right now. But historically, like, they turn out they have a very good youth system. They turn out a ton of talent, a lot of talent that got sold to bigger clubs, and now like they struggle in the actual league itself. And I feel like that's kind of Copenhagen Flames, but that worked for them for so long, and now obviously it hasn't. The recession's kind of really, really hit them hard.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that everybody's kind of looking towards and is kind of eerily watching for, is what's being called like the esports winter, essentially. Whereas
Yeah.
another recession coming in that people are seeing, and it's really starting to hit, but it's not. I don't know. I'm not an economist here. I keep hearing it's getting close. It's getting close. Yeah, smiling wave over there with your
I,
minor and that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's
he is.
it's it's on the way, but it's not there yet. I think is the
Yeah,
best way to
yeah.
say it.
I think you're right. I think people need to realize too that like 2020 was really tough on businesses. Like if you look at 2020 in Europe and you look at 2020 US, like there were a
Yeah.
lot of countries that had two straight quarters of negative GDP growth, which
Hmm. Doesn't
outside of
help.
the US, everyone counts that as a recession.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, the companies were losing money during that time, left, right, and center, right? Like
Right.
that's the point. Like I mentioned that because 2022 was really hard on company. Like 2020 obviously was hard on everybody, companies, people.
Yes.
Then you had 2022, which was already hard on companies, and now people are talking about further slowdown later on this year. So it's like, so companies looked at 2022 and be like, I wasn't prepared for that. I'm not in a situation where I'm going to be prepared for 2023. Now I need to start trimming fat. So that's why I think you see a lot of these
Yeah. There's a
companies
lot of
trimming.
there's a lot of cut down coming because companies that were ready to handle the future have now discovered that they can't handle this future for as long as they have to, basically, and it's only going to get worse kind of as we continue on. So I mean, this isn't the first kind of what we've seen. This isn't the first of it, but it's just the beginning, I guess, in a way. It's only the beginning of what potentially might come, because you say, the recession hasn't really hit yet. We don't kind of know when that's going to happen in a fully realistic way. So yeah, that's kind of where that goes. So yeah, that is Copenhagen Flames and their story. That's going to be development. We're gonna have to keep an eye on the players. I think a few of them I put up looking for team posts already, which
I actually didn't see that, did they?
I think there was one or two. I could be wrong. Female CS retweets so many of them that I could just be wrong. And I thought I saw something earlier. It's one of those things of I don't have enough time in that time zone. Like, I'm at work during the day. I should not be on
Yeah.
Twitter when I'm at work. I'm busy selling stuff. So,
Look,
um
don't tell my boss.
yeah, don't tell my I've gotten in trouble for it before. My boss like kept walking by my desk and was like, "That's the third, fourth, that's the fifth time I've seen you on your phone when I walk by your desk." I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, it's because I'm waiting for the computer system to catch up to what I'm actually doing." But whatever. I'll
Yeah, I did the same thing too.
all they see is you on your phone, right? So, anyways, um, so yeah, a bit of sad news with that, and like I said, this is kind of just the beginning of it. There's a few more roster
Yeah.
drops that kind of come through.
I,
LRV. Oh,
real quick,
yeah,
before we go to Elevator, I just want to say, and I mentioned on Twitter, the reason Copenhagen's is so big is because of the history that they had as well. Like
yes,
this is a club that's been here for 7 years. That
yeah,
is always, I mean, going back to when I joined the scene, they had a women's scene, and I was joined as a commentator,
yeah,
and I joined. I started commentating in 2019. They were there. Like I
yeah.
was commentating their games in ESAA pre-pandemic. Like so, this is an org that's always invested in the women's scene, and I think that's why it's such a devastating loss, really, for them to be out of business.
No, and it's a huge thing when you think of just even the general history of this. Like, I mean, we talked about CLG Red going away, and that they have a long storied history in specifically women's Counter Strike. But you look at Copenhagen Flames, and they have just huge history in both scenes, and especially in the men's side, because there were a lot of times where they were saying, "Listen, we're barely able to afford what we do here, and like this is why their whole culture has been." We are going to develop players and we're going to sell them on because we need that money to continue operating to give opportunities to new up and coming players. And I mean, I've seen short lists of people coming through there. I mean, I think back to the whole Mad Lions buy where they basically bought out. I think they bought the entire Copenhagen Flames lineup at that point, and still Copenhagen Flames. They found another lineup that was looking promising, could get them a little bit extra money. They, bought them salaries and everything like that, and that's kind of where they went on from there. But they've shown how the sports side of esports comes in, where you need to have this cash in, cash out. You can't just keep getting cash in and letting it sink into a well. They were, at least there was some attempt there to try and be a net zero team that made the money and
Yeah,
immediately put it back into the team.
yeah. On to LRV now.
Yeah, few
Like you said,
teams,
let's actually move on.
few teams here.
Yeah. So they dropped their lineup. So LRV, Argentinian org,
Yeah,
had a lineup in a mainly Argentinian lineup. I think one Uruguayan in it as well.
yeah,
And they dropped their women's side. So this was right before, oddly enough, Liga Feminina, right before the tournament.
yeah,
Although the thing I realized with Liga Feminina, by the way, is that it's not like ESL where every place gets paid out.
yeah.
Even if, like, last place gets
Right, they
not a
get a
lot of
little
money,
bit,
like
but they get
only
some.
only the top 3 in Liga Feminina got paid out.
Wow.
So, this is an org that, like I said, did drop the lineup. So this was, I want to say this was like the lineup with Valu and
Right.
Lulu in it as well. I'm actually struggling to find the tweet I sent you
Oh dear.
about it. That's how, yeah, I'm a little bit off here.
Scroll up a
But
little bit.
nonetheless, I think yeah, they did. It's a shame that they're out. And oddly enough, I expressed this with I think it was Milk, and I said, as we're going to get in later, I'm a little bit concerned with the health of the Brazilian scene, not because of the number of teams. I think the number of teams is great, but because of the number of orgs that seem to be committing long term to the scene, right?
Yeah.
And that's my concern. Obviously, you got Furia. Obviously, you got Black Dragons. You got MIBR. You got B4. They're kind of leading the way, right? W7M is in there as well. But then it's like we know earlier Parabellum, like mid Impact season, dropped their team. Like
Dropped it and
now you've got LRV. We're about to talk about another one coming
yeah.
up. Like, so I'm like, there's a lot of, it's becoming a little bit like Shades of North America or Shades of Europe, where I want to say more Shades of Europe, because North America has like two strong orgs in terms
Yes.
of support. Well, no, they only have one now. CLG's done. So
Yep.
now they only have EG.
It's a
So
general it's a general cutback across the entire scene. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
more noticeable on the women's side than the men's, but it's still kind of there. So, it's going to be consistent over the next probably few weeks here. And I mean, we kind of saw it earlier with ATK. I mean, their lineup dropped because they weren't around for, they needed they weren't going to be playing for anything, so they dropped them because
Yeah,
there wasn't any point. So there might be something in that. The Parabellum one sucks because there was something to play for, and they just
yeah, they were
couldn't hold
in
up to it.
Impact at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
I can
doesn't make any
understand why
sense.
LRV kind of gets dropped towards the end of the season without really making much in the way in terms of headway, but I don't know. I'm of the
I mean,
opinion that like they
maybe,
could have
but
kept them
like
around for Liga
Brazil's got
Feminina.
more tournaments, man.
Exactly, right? They
Like
should have kept
that's
them
the
around.
thing.
So I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I don't even know if it's something where we see the return of the I don't know if you call it the Girls League or the Gers League or something like that, because it was like GRRRLS League.
Right.
That's literally how it was spelled. But that was a women's tournament. I think that one was organized not by Gamers Club or Itao, who was the main sponsor. So
Right.
Itao is the main sponsor for the Gamers Club stuff, right? And they've kind of brought in the cash to run it. This is going to be their 4th year running it, by the way, which is
Shout
very
out to
impressive.
them. Yeah.
Yes, very impressive. So Itao, by the way, is the Brazilian bank
Yeah.
conglomerate, right? So they, very impressive with them. But then I think the girls' league was run or sponsored by a different sponsor. Everything runs through Gamers Club down there, but it
Yeah.
is nonetheless. I don't know if we'll see something like that again. I doubt it because I don't think it has been run since. I think 2021 was the last year for it.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure on that. So that's not me making a hard factual statement. But nonetheless, you still have 4 Liga Femininas and 2 Masters Femininas, right? And these tournaments that constantly keep the girls playing against each other. So it's like you're going into this tournament series. I don't understand why you really drop them. The only thing I would say is because they only pay out the top 3, maybe it was a decision that was something like, well,
We're not going to
maybe we
make the top
maybe we
3,
pick up a
so
lineup
yeah,
when the closed qualifier comes around, and then we'll
kind
think
of go from
about
there.
that. Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's one of those things, and again, another team that got dropped here recently in Brazil, in fact, was Endgame as well. So
yeah,
the comings and goings are going to happen. The cool thing I want to say, at least though, when it comes to orgs being in, specifically in Brazil, because most of the teams that are in Impact are under orgs, even if they're not under orgs for a long term. The fact that they're able to get some kind of org support for at least the small amount of time they are, that's pretty cool. And if it keeps kind of coming in and out, at least there's some consistency there. Like you're not gonna get you're in terms of the org's gonna come back, if that makes sense. Like the orgs are
I mean,
the,
okay, yeah, that's fair.
the
That's
orgs
fair.
are the orgs are dropping out because it's unsustainable for them to pay you a salary or anything longer term. But in the tournament sections, they can come in and say, "Hey, listen, we'll pay for the tournament. We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll give you a little bit of, we'll give you some money because your support. You're under our brand and all this. There's there's abilities that come with that. So while yes, you're not getting like an EG or a CLG Red in terms of a long term, or a Furia, you're not getting an MIBR. You're not getting
Yeah.
long term contracts. You're not getting large orgs coming in. The smaller bedroom orgs have to be there for a reason. They have to be there to kind of pop
Yes.
in and say,
Yes.
"Hello,
And
we're here to exist."
honestly, that's something that we could say, up until this season of Impact, North America's lacked that like
Yes,
bedroom or kind of,
yes.
you know what I mean? And then you get Detonate. No offense, please don't take offense, Levosky, for me
Then
calling you
aren't.
a bedroom org,
They're fine.
but he's getting there though. That
Yeah.
org is Detonator getting there, but those orgs like a Detonate, like Team
Team
Factor,
Factor.
Ruby,
Yeah.
like anyone else that's in the scene.
Eros at one point was there. Atlas
Eros
is
or
there now
Atlas is
instead
there
for the team.
now. Yep. So, you need those organizations as well. They're the stepping stones, right?
Yeah.
So it's because it helps everybody, right?
No, exactly.
Let's say Detonate's lineup make the land, right? And let's say there's an org that wants to come in for the impact scene, like a just for the tournament, just for 3 months or a
Yeah.
month or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Detonate make the land. You get an org like, I don't know,
Complexity.
Complexity.
Yeah.
That might be too big, but you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Maybe Strife would be a good example.
Okay.
Uh,
Nouns.
and it's like nouns, yeah, and it's like, hey, we could pay you for a month or two. Go to the Impact Land, represent us. Okay, they buy it off Detonate. Detonate gets to make money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and now Nouns gets represented at the Impact League. They get a cut of that prize money. Granted, it's not a ton.
No.
At that level for an org like Nouns or Stripe is probably 10%
Yeah.
max.
It's not
Probably
much.
5 to 10%. Yeah, but you have an opportunity to make a little bit, and maybe this team surprises and you place higher, like a Police and Help did season 1 than anybody would have predicted.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean, it's a big opportunity. So you need that kind of bedroom org there. So you're right. The scene, and that's what is nice about Brazil is there are 5 right now consistent teams or organizations, I should say, in
Yeah.
Brazil. You know what I mean? And I think that's the real cornerstone that's allowed other orgs, Endgame and all them to come in and just continue to pick up rosters, swap rosters, and all that stuff. So they didn't stay down for long though, Parabellum. I gotta say
Yeah, this is the next point. We talk about orgs coming in
yeah.
and going out. So we lost Parabellum earlier in the season. They forfeited all their matches. They were done for ESL Impact
Yep.
Season 3. They've now been signed by Davina.
Yeah. I
And
love the logo and the whole look of this org, by
yeah,
the way,
there you
too.
go.
It's nice. The
So that's
announcement post with the pink and everything, like
yeah.
that was good.
Listen, you got to make something happen somehow. So I'm just gonna try and pull up that tweet.
Oh, I just had it, and then I just
you gotta
exited out
scroll
of
up a
it. I
lot.
just exited
We
out
talk
of it, bro.
we talk a lot. No, I enjoy the colors and 5 players and the coach. Like that's great. And I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we need. The bedroom org coming in and going, listen, we saw that you kind of got the short end of the stick with Parabellum. We like what we see from you, at least in in terms of what we've seen. Let's run with it. Let's try something. And so they'll pick you up, and that's kind of where it goes. So that's kind of the update in terms of rosters getting dropped and picked up by orgs.
Yep.
We've had a few other noteworthy things I want to say in the recent thing here.
Yep.
Notably, Sevenlicious is now in the has her
Yes.
visa, is in the U.S.
Yes.
Which timing could be something there.
It's so I laugh, but like it is really unfortunate for her. Like it is like what could have been done if she gotten the visa the first time. You know
I
what I mean?
know.
It's not her fault she didn't get the visa, by the way.
The other
But it's
thing
like one of
is,
those things that's like what
yeah,
could have been, you know?
the other thing is that kind of is interesting with that is now that she has her visa, I'm pretty sure the lineup of EG, barring any roster shenanigans they might be doing behind the scenes that we don't know about, if another team is unable to get their visas for Dallas, which by the way is in less than a month,
Yep.
EG have a high potential now of being able to go, oh, we'll come to Dallas. We're ready
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah. That's true.
Pick us up, pack us and
We
go.
mentioned this, I think, off. I don't know if it was on the pod or off
Yeah,
camera.
we mentioned it because no fear. Was it? It was
9 pandas.
Nine
Like the
Pandas,
concern
yes.
was with 9 pandas, right?
Yes.
But the like we said previously, and that
Their visa
EG
should
would
be
be an
fine.
easy replacement for 9 pandas because everybody's cleared to work in the US, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it would just be easier. Like obviously it should go to like Big Akipa,
There's
but
obvious teams that it should go to.
well,
Unfortunately,
they're
that's
the
not
next
how the
in
word.
line,
Yeah.
right? Because they
Again,
lost the 9
the
pandas.
obvious answer. The problem is the world doesn't work always on obvious answers.
Right, and but the easy answer would
The
be,
easiest
although
answer.
to be fair, I, with those visas, maybe those visas for Biggie Keeper still aren't
We don't
like
know.
good.
All
Yeah,
we
I
know
don't know.
is EG could
I
do
don't
it
know.
if needed
That's
because a
true.
bunch
Yeah,
of their players are
that's
now
the
in the
main
Seattle
takeaway
area.
here.
So that's the main
That's the
takeaway.
main takeaway. Yeah.
Other roster kind of announcements that we've seen so far. Saints have done a bit of a change up on their roster. It now is Bunny, Olia, Scraft, Cincy, and Catalyst. Notably,
Oh,
Cincy and Catalyst.
Cincy or Cinixy, same person, isn't it?
Yeah, same
Cinixy,
person. Cinixy. I say Cincy because X and Y's are weird. I haven't been told. I haven't been told
That's
wrong
Canadian
yet.
in
I
you.
haven't been told wrong yet, so I'm gonna continue to do it until.
Cincy's a city, bro.
No,
Cincy is a city.
that's Cincinnati.
Yeah, guess what they
Cinny.
call it for short?
Cincy.
No,
Oh
they
god.
don't call it city. They call it
No,
Cincy.
Cinny. Call it Cinny.
No, they don't. They don't call it Cinny,
Listen,
baby. They call it Cincy.
they don't call me Parks for nothing.
What does that even mean?
It doesn't.
What does it even mean?
Just like Cincy. Doesn't mean anything, man.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
um,
All the people of Cincinnati now hate you. So,
Perfect. I don't like them anyways. What have
yeah,
they
I
ever
don't
done
know.
for me?
It's like- we're off the rails now.
Yeah.
We're so off the rails.
This is what happens
But
when
no,
we take like 10 minutes to talk beforehand.
So the big pickup here is Cinixy, and Catalyst.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I freaking love these pickups because if you watched our stream,
yeah,
the one that you produced, I cast with Snicky.
Yeah. You were about to say Snixy.
Look, there is some potential to tongue twist. I wasn't gonna say it. No, I wasn't close to saying it, but I do see your point in yeah, you could get certain Freudian slip there.
Yeah.
But no, we pointed Catalyst out as like the player here that like we really like, whoa, this player actually is really good. So and a little bit as well with Cinixy, right? Or just Cinixy for short. So yeah, I'm just gonna say it once. Like but
so nice you had to say it twice.
Listen, I'll never forget the I think it was Scooter Magruder video where he goes, why do I have to keep calling you boy? At what point do you become man? And I was like, what the heck? So I always remember anytime somebody's got double name. But nonetheless, no. You know, Cinixy was a player on her roster that I thought this is a pretty good player. This is probably the best player on her roster, and then same with Catalyst. So I think this is really good pickup from Saints. I think it gives them a ton of firepower that they didn't have in the previous season of Impact. Who would be the AWP? Would that be Bunny? Would that be
Olya.
Olya?
Olya would
Olya's
still
the
stick.
AWP?
My guess is Olya would still stick with maybe Catalyst actually. Catalyst was an opera, I believe, for
Well, I mean,
I'm double checking.
look,
I have to double check the roster here real quick just to make sure.
yeah, yeah, me too, as well, actually,
Um
because I have no
yeah,
clue.
Catalyst
But
was the opera for Team Factor Ruby in season 3.
yeah,
Because I remember
but
I've talked to Reef about this before because I wanted to know kind of where the situation was at with that. Stay tuned on that as well. They're figuring out a roster as well. Um, that's gonna be a future one though. No, for this Saints roster. Actually, I was gonna look and see who was on that Saints roster.
and
today.
Cynicsy comes in as the IGL, by the way. So I just noticed that on her Twitter.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yep.
And this is what always caused me issues when Team Factor Ruby was playing.
Yep.
Mama Alien got way more playtime than Sin did. And a big reason for that was because of her schedule and some other out of game things like I believe her horse died or something like that. She had a lot of
yes,
issues.
I remember.
It concerns me that they're still going with 5, and I'm betting that they have people in the wings. I'm betting they have somebody like HS Dot kind of still sitting around going, hey, listen, are you still interested in staying here as the 6th? Just in case we have an issue with Sin where she can't play because she's still in school. She was very busy coming into last season. There's a good amount of time before season 4. So all these issues might be resolved, and they're just kind of playing with house money on that. But it's still it's a reasonable thing to raise in terms of a point because we know Catalyst will play every match. We know that now. She's going to be in there for sure. But we don't know about that for Sin, and this has been, I think, something that has carried on through previous seasons. I don't remember if Sin actually ever made ESL Impact Season 2. I don't remember at all. But part of the reason that these things happen so much is that she isn't able to keep a full-time schedule with it. So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see if this 5 does work out because we know Saints can be very good. They've had a lot of roster upheaval, but this core of Olya, Bunny, and Scraft have proven themselves before. You're missing out on Paula now. You're missing out on what potentially could have been brought from HS Dot and Bazdaria, but if they weren't working out, I can understand why this change was being made. So
yeah,
cool to see. And you're picking up 2 strong players from a Team Factor Ruby that looked on paper very good and always had competitive games, even if they didn't win them all. So that's something to keep in mind.
And I think it's a step up for Saints. Like, Saints are looking to be competitive in Season 4 North America to try and get a spot at what is now going to be Valencia. More on that in a minute.
Yes.
But it's I think this is good. I think this sets them up where now, look, if you get drawn in a group, the Detonate roster, I think there's some changes going on there, right?
There's a lot of changes. I think we already talked about that last episode.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. I don't know if I was spilling the beans. That's why.
Yeah, you took a pause there for sure, just to be like, oh no.
I was like,
we know already that kind of what's happening.
No, okay. So the Detonate roster falling apart is kind of maybe going to actually assist Saints, but
yeah.
I think the thing that is, you look at the Saints side, and now you're like, they weren't. They're not going to be competitive against Shimmer. They're not going to be competitive against XCLG Red, right?
No.
So they weren't.
I
would say they weren't going to be competitive against the Detonate roster.
No.
Before it imploded. But now you're in a position where if you're not sharing a group with Shimmer and XCLG Red, you maybe got a puncher's chance to get that second ticket into to Valencia now. And I think this lineup gives you that puncher's chance. I think that's the thing. I think it was a clear. I think the roster changes that they made, one particularly that they had to make, but I won't say what. But we all know what and why.
Yeah.
But I will say, there was a roster change that they had to make given everything that happened.
Yes.
And I think this kind of left them a little bit without what the pieces that they had that made them pretty
as
much
impactful
so.
as they were.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
as successful as they were. Now I think they're back on that track to be successful as potentially the number 2 seed, because if they get in a group with CLG Red, and then they got to play, you know, maybe it's Shimmer, sure. I mean, you don't know. Like they could have a decent firepower enough to maybe sneak the second spot for season 4. But overall, I think what I'm trying to say is I like these changes. I think it gives them more firepower. I think it gives them more of a structure that then they can develop within, as opposed to just a puggy kind of style.
Yeah.
And I think that's very good for the Saints. So I do like these changes.
All right. So that is all on roster stuff that we've got. I know we're going really slow here on all that, but we're kind of through everything finally. The last
Yep.
big piece of news that we've got, kind of just quickly scrolling through. Quick note, I guess, for Bite, BMAX is a free agent. It was a pug team anyways,
Yeah, I
so
saw that. Yeah.
they're kind of
So
exploring their
BMAX went
options.
from a free agent to a free agent.
Yeah, which eh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
I
just
get
announcing that you're doing that
it.
is
Yeah, I know.
it keeps you in
I'm
the
being
loop.
facetious here,
Yes.
Marks.
Okay, so the last big announcement then is is ESL Impact Season 4 finals have been rescheduled to Valencia. This is in the wake
Yes.
of the original land in Hanover, I believe it was, getting moved.
Correct. It
Yeah, it was.
was in Hanover. It's getting moved. I'm wondering why it's getting moved. I'm kind of
I
curious as
think
to,
there
like,
was an
why it's
issue
getting
with a
moved.
venue or something for the dates. I don't exactly remember. I know the men's side, or the co-ed side, sorry, has been moved
Yeah.
to Katowice, and
Yep.
because we've already been to Katowice, they were like, let's kind of go somewhere else, somewhere new.
Yeah, so might as well
Um,
fall back on Valencia if you
and
run the tournament there twice now.
yeah, it's gonna
So
make
you had to
sense.
you had obviously the Valencia showdown in 2019. Now you've
Yeah,
had the one yet last year. So I like it. I like Valencia. I do think there's a history growing with the impact scene in Valencia.
yeah,
I just don't want um I have no problems with the decision to move to Valencia.
yeah,
My only concern here, Parks, is I don't want this scene to get pigeonholed into having, if they're going to have so few events every year,
yeah.
to get pigeonholed into them being the same places. Call Katowice, Valencia. You know what I mean? Next year, what
Dallas.
are we going to get Katowice and Valencia again? Yeah, Dallas. Like I come to North America again. Sure, try it. You know, there's maybe
Do
a
your
different
own.
city. Like,
Yeah,
you know, maybe, I mean, Brazil's begging for a land down there. Like, a Brazilian ESL Impact land would be immense,
yeah,
immense down there. So, um, I think they could draw the attendance. I think they could draw the viewership as well, because they have partners in Brazil that could bring eyes to the game.
yeah,
Um, you know, there's plenty of other places. Why not have one at Cologne? That's the other big one.
yeah.
That's the other
That's
big.
this huge one.
You want to make a statement for the women's game, right? I'm telling you, 20. If
Put them in
if
the
we're going to get an
cathedral.
impact season next year,
You put them in the cathedral.
put them in the Cathedral Counter Strike.
Yeah.
That would be sick. It's around this time, isn't it? Isn't it like May, June that we usually get the Cologne tournament?
Somewhere soon. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm so sorry. It's not something that I
No,
can
I'm
think
just
of
saying,
actively.
like,
Yeah,
hello.
it's
This
a good
makes
point.
sense. So yeah, I mean, come on, like use this to grow. You know, to really give. You want to use it to grow regions, obviously, but also to give the ladies something special.
Yeah.
Playing in Cologne would be special.
Oh, it'd be huge.
So especially if you're eliminating these best of fives, that you're seeing this talk of like getting rid of best of
Oh,
fives.
they've made a huge note. Like, there's been huge notes on that now recently, which is really cool. And I think the tournament
Yes.
organizers have realized now that, yeah, we only need to do best of threes. That's where we're gonna get our peak viewership, because they're gonna stay for the whole thing. They're not just gonna pop in
Yep.
for a map and then go because they don't have enough
Yeah.
time for a full day. It's kind of
Yep.
the way I think about it. It's the way it's basically cricket versus baseball, in my opinion, when I look at it. And no, you got to hear me out on
You
this one.
coming from my heart here.
But you got to hear me out on this. Cricket to me, when it was explained to me when I was very young, cricket is a long day, right? It is
Yes.
a full day
Yes.
affair, maybe
Yes.
even multiple depending on how long it goes. And
Yes.
this is coming from, I know basically nothing about cricket, versus baseball, which is actively trying to make the game shorter when they add in
Right.
the pitch clock.
It's
They've
it's
knocked it down by half
essentially,
an hour.
yes, and love those changes, by the way. But
Yeah.
it's essentially cricket, the T20 version versus Test,
Yeah.
where Test is like 5 days, 8 hours a day, and T20 version is like, here is a 3.5 hour version, sometimes 2 like hour 45-minute version of the
Yeah.
game that people can better consume, as opposed to starting a match on a Wednesday and finish it, you know what I mean, for
Finishing
8
it all,
hours,
yeah, and just
and maybe
continually
you get to
going.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Maybe the game could even finish Friday, and
yeah.
then you don't even have tickets to sell for the weekend. Yeah, that's the problem with cricket. But we're not a cricket podcast. So, it is it is, as much as I do love that game,
Yeah.
it is, it's essentially the same issue. But my point is, if there's talk of Cologne still being a best of five, I think ESL's confirmed that. I think they have the opportunity that if they really don't want the best of five, like the major to me should be the best of five. I think only the major should be the best of five.
But it's consistently
I
been best
understand
of
the
3,
argument for
hasn't it?
Katowice and Cologne, right?
Yeah.
But you could technically, if you really wanted to go big, put the Impact Finals best of three in the morning or in the early afternoon, like at a noon start or a 1 o'clock start, knowing that by 5 o'clock at the maximum, you're going to be wrapped up probably, right? Unless the series just goes insanely long, which if
Yeah.
that's the case, fair play. But it's whatever. I've done plenty of best of threes, and very few of them have ever lasted more than 3 hours.
Yeah.
But you could put the women at one, and then you bring the co-ed teams in at five, and you're offering an audience more Counter-Strike if they want it. They don't
Yeah.
have to take it, but you're offering them more Counter-Strike if they want it, and you're offering the ladies a chance to play a grand final in freaking Cologne. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
It's
come on.
it's big ideas here.
Yeah.
Basically is kind of what we're going for.
Yeah.
We have to move on
So,
eventually. I'm so sorry.
yeah, you're right. I went on a tangent there.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing here is that Valencia is where the season 4 finals are going to move. I'm okay with the move because of the history. My concern is that I don't want to get pigeonholed into venues and events and cities.
Yes.
Uh,
And that is
Let
already
me get your
happening.
thoughts, Parks, because I don't think you've expressed enough of it yet. So,
I'm okay with the consistency. I'm okay with the
okay.
consistency of having these events in certain spots. I like that we knew coming into this year it was going to be in Dallas.
Yes,
It was
that
going
I
to
do
be
like.
it was going to I'm good with having the two lands being consistent of where they are. I'm okay with that. Even if it's just a random European country or European city and a random American city. We know it's going to be Dallas majority of the time. Basically that. Yeah, it's as long as we kind of understand the regions based on that. I would love if they for that third land you mentioned Brazil, maybe going to somewhere in
Cologne.
Cologne, using that as the extra one to go in and say, here's a little extra one. It's not gonna be based on the ESL Impact stuff, but we're
Right.
gonna throw it in based on some ESL Impact. We'll get some some auto invites in, and we'll have qualifiers for it all, and we can make somebody's dream. Like, I mean, Katowice was huge for somebody like Saints, right? Katowice is
Yes.
this big, the Spodek. I don't think they ended up playing in the Spodek, but like you're nearby to the Spodek, which is huge in and of
I thought
itself.
they played in the Spodek, just not in the arena, in like a tiny,
Yeah.
like in a
So
side
they
room of the
okay.
Spodek.
But they didn't play in the they didn't play on the huge stage. They
No,
played on
like
a
you got to get them
secondary
on the
one.
stage, man.
Yeah. I think when it comes to actual finals, I would love that more. So I
Yeah.
don't care where it goes as long as they're able to get on the big stage and be a
Yeah.
part of the big show instead of a side thing. It's it's where it's at because the audience is not necessarily there yet, I guess. And part of that is the climate. Part of that is the climate. And part of that is this is still a relatively new thing in comparison to how long CS as a game has been around.
Yes, but you have to understand one point, and I'll make this, and then
Yep.
nobody have to move on. But one point, you have it's like the show match, right?
Yeah.
The show match is meant to be fun and all that. But the point is, if you have the show match to the major, right, and the match starts at 12, right,
Yeah.
and it's the major final, it's the Cologne final, whatever, right, and the show match is going to be on at 10, maybe
Yeah.
9,
Yeah.
10 usually, right? People are going to go in the arena at 10 o'clock. They're going to want, because they know it's open, and they're going to, oh, I don't have to sit through lines for the merch that I'm going to buy. Oh, great. I can use the restroom when I get there. There's no line for that. I can buy concessions and then
Yeah.
take my seat before the thing even starts and grab snacks and just munch on the snacks while the game's going on. So I don't have to, oh, I finished shopping and I've got my food and I don't need to use the restroom. Oh, and this game doesn't start till 90 minutes. What should we do to kill some time? Why don't we just stay and watch the second half? It's on. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
Counter Strike. look at that. Now you got eyes on the games that otherwise wouldn't be on this game if you stuck them in the middle of a Dreamhack venue convention floor. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that's the
And
point. Like
it's
I
a
like
very
the
good point.
idea of the convention floor during Dallas. It was great. You know what I mean? It was amazing to see they had to pull the chairs from all other areas
Yeah, they
to
were
get the
bringing
viewers.
people. It's going to be even
That
worse this time around now, eh?
right. That tells you something. There's
Yeah.
demand. Like there's a bigger demand than what you're offering for the fans here, right? Now, I didn't see it. I didn't see something like that obviously at Valencia. I didn't see it at Jokoping. But I think there you know, when you come to a place like Dallas, you saw the demand was there. So it depending on the venue, depending on the country, depending on all that, you could have a good reason to put these girls on the main stage. And I think that would really elevate the game
Mm-hmm.
because now the girls don't have to compete with an IEM Dallas final that's going on in the arena. You know, they don't have to compete for viewership. They don't have to compete for any of that. They get their time in the light, and the people who normally wouldn't watch them watch them. And I mean, if you're telling me that a B4 HSD Vertigo that we got in season 2 finals isn't
Mm-hmm.
going to hype people up, like then they're not going to be interested at all, like
Yeah.
period to begin with. Like they might not even be interested in the main Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
But like if you put that kind of a product in front of them, maybe they start to pay attention to those teams more. You know what I mean? And that's the point. Like you got to get the eyes on it, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's opportunities for ESL to improve. You know, they definitely need to get the girls on the main stage. I'll put it that way. I'm with you. But again, I'm on a tangent, and it's Valencia. Valencia is the main thing.
Valencia is the main thing. They're going to be at Valencia. It's December 8th to 10th. And honestly, I could use a vacation at that time. But
I cannot get off those days. It's blackout period for me because I work in
100%.
retail. So
yeah, I was gonna
it's
say I could because that time is usually dead. End of year is always so much fun, dude. Christmas last year was great, and it was like all of the bosses, everybody who kind of everybody who does not have to be in at work goes home, and so all us inside guys were like, well, we don't want to take the days off. We're just gonna bank our holidays, and so we were all in the inside sales office, and there's still some orders coming in and everything. Like we're still taking care of orders and stuff. Dude, we were playing fucking Magic. That's my one. We were playing Magic, The Gathering, like, and sitting and watching movies during the day. Like, you're basically doing nothing. So, anyways, that's that. December
that's
time
when
is
you
when
can
Valencia.
be on your phone. That's when you can be on Twitter while.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're gonna have to quickly breeze through cash cups because we have to get through. We have to get through
Liga Feminina.
Yes,
but the cash cup's very quick.
You're gonna have to be a little bit fast on that one as well. Unfortunately, I can't give you the full width and breadth on it. So. Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving soon.
Stop arguing.
You don't have time. Anyways, cash cup for Europe. We'll start with them in. For spring number 2, there was only one cash cup because they did have that week break. I think that's going to start to become more of a thing as well. For a very long time, it was every single weekend there's a cash cup, and that was for them to try and catch up because they were doing breaks for other tournaments and everything like that, qualifiers, the like.
You'll get that again once we get through the summer break, by the way.
Yeah, that'll all come back.
On the other side of the player break. Yeah, you'll get that again.
So, lots of teams, it looks like, signed up. We get the results of the quarterfinals on Wikipedia, so that's kind of what I'm going to stick with. The notable
Where
teams...
you start?
Europe.
Okay.
Europe. Of course, Europe.
Okay.
Why not Europe? Anyways.
Okay.
Notable teams that are kind of through, at least on the notable participants page here. We have Navi Javelins, Copenhagen Flames, Celio Female, NIP, Yayo, who we've mentioned before, and I don't see any other teams or players I recognize.
I recognize Vlansburg from Passiva Esports.
Okay.
That's a name and a half, but that's going way back.
Right. And then just kind of looking at the results here, Copenhagen Flames did very well in the quarterfinals. NIP did very well in the semis.
Yep.
16.
So Flames over Crescent.
Yeah, Flames over Crescent. NIP over Lawrence. Those two faced off against each other. NIP won pretty handily, a 16-4 and then a 16-11. Navi Javelins on the other side, they kind of swept away the competition. It was a 16-14 against Yayo in the semifinals and a 16-1. to take the 2-0 there. Yayo, of course, beating Incilio Female 16-7 earlier on, and of course, Pasiba Esports going down to Navi. And then the grand finals was a three-mapper. I would not call it a thriller. Thrillers are usually reserved for three maps that all go double digits or are at least semi-close. Nip owned on Inferno 16-1 against Navi. And then they lost 16-10 and 16-9 to Navi. So Navi take the Spring Cash Cup number 2, which is cool for them. They earn a little bit of cash. They earn a little bit more of the bragging rights, and they kind of show why they are where they are in terms of the standings.
Yep.
Next up on the list, I'm going down the list here. So we're going to go North America next. I believe there were 8 or 9 teams again. The notable teams coming through.
9.
Yeah, notable teams coming through. XCLG Red, Coven, which there are a few players in there that I recognize. Yeah. We got Cannibal, Jaylee, Mika Coils, who was notably on Sarah Femme during the qualifiers.
Yes.
I don't recognize ADQC. That's a good name.
Okay.
That comes through. Lula. ADQC.
ADQC. Okay.
I'm saying it how it sounds. It should be said, which is a bunch of letters.
ADKQC.
Yeah.
Anyway.
ADKQC.
Okay. So 2-0 for CLG over Coven.
Yep. And then on the other side, it was Team Factor Ruby versus Saints because, of course, Shimmer aren't playing. I believe they got their 2 in a row.
Yep.
And Detonator gone. So there's a vacuum there to be left because that was what he was usually being. Yeah. Yep. Team Factor Ruby unfortunately got 2-0'd by Saints, a 16-6 on both Anubis and Overpass. So this, of course, is the new Saints lineup, by the way, that played. This is kind of where they were like, oh, cat's out of the bag. We're playing with our new 5.
Oh,
yeah. And so they 2-0'd, and then we get to XCLG Red versus Saints. No competition. 16-4, 16-2. Cool to see that they're back. CLG Red coming back into play. I mean, it kind of makes sense that they're doing it because they need the money. They don't necessarily need the money, but like you'll take what you can.
Oh, they need the money. They got nobody paying the salary.
Nobody's paying the salary, dude. Okay, so nobody's paying the salary, so you need to get money from somewhere. Why not get it from?
Yeah, they got to win 2 cash cups in a row, and that covers rent. So
they win 2 cash cups in a row, but then they're screwed for next month's rent.
Yeah, exactly. I hope there's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So no, but it's I can't believe it's happened to CLG Red, but yeah, that's I get why they entered the cash cup. But yeah, they've won. They're winners again. Their first win since September 17th, 18th of last year.
And so it's funny that you say it like that because they didn't lose. They just
didn't compete
because they're like, we're winning every single one. What's the point?
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, well, we're just gonna let the other teams do it, and we'll take our weekends. Going down to South America now. Black Dragons, Capivaras, Maiden Pug, and LRV. The ex-LRV at this point. So LRV had already lost their org support by this time.
Yep.
Black Dragons 2-1ing Capivaras, 16-12 for Capivaras, and then 16-12, 16-7 for Black Dragons. Yep. Maiden Pug get 2-1s by LRV, 16-4, 16-10, 16-8. Pretty close in both of those, really, when you think about it. Like the fact they both go 2-1. And then in the finals, oh my goodness, this scoreline coming through: 16-4 for Black Dragons on the first map of Mirage. Then they get to Nuke, 25-21 for Black Dragons female. Yeah. That one went on forever, as far as they can see there. That's
triple
insane.
OT right there.
That's a lot of
2 things to know about this cash cup, right?
Yeah.
2 things, foreshadowing. Number 1, watch this Maiden Pug side. This is Bittner's side. Now, I don't know if you know Bittner, Parks.
No.
He's a regular in my stream chat. He is a mod in Pimp's chat as well, who actually streamed the Gamers Without Borders event, by the way.
Cool.
We didn't even talk about Gamers Without Borders.
Pimp? Pimp or Pib? Sorry.
Pimp.
The Danish legend himself.
Pimp, yes.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about Gamers Without Borders, by the way. Your camera's gone all fuzzy.
It's back. Don't worry.
But which maybe we cover that in another episode.
It'll have to be a next episode.
We don't
have time if you're going to talk so long about Brazil.
But nonetheless, the other thing to make note of, the nuke for Black Dragons, and I say this because it's particularly becoming a really strong map. They beat Furia on it in ESL Impact. They beat Nigma on it at the Bahrain LAN, by the way. and they have another big scalp that we'll talk about in a minute on it. But they look pretty good on Nuke. I this is like Nuke has got to be a ban against Black Dragons if you're going to play him, because they're going to take you to town on that map. So, but a win for Black Dragons, a solid win for Black Dragons. And they've won. It's their first since January 28th, 29th.
Cool.
So
Amazing. Continuing on then, we've got the South African Cup. And this one featured, very interestingly enough, Bigfoot +4, which
yes,
is
old ATK.
old ATK. I think there's been one or two lineup changes, but like USSB and Megs are in that lineup, so kind of run it with it as that.
Yep.
They ended up winning the whole thing. They beat White Ramadan Morales in the semifinals, 16-5 on both Mirage and Overpass. At the same time, Aperture Gaming, who is now another org that's kind of stepped in, their lineup got beaten by Vibe and FE, and it was a 16-1, 16-5 on Vertigo and Inferno. We come to the grand final. It's Vibe versus Bigfoot, 16-11 on both maps, Inferno and Ancient for the way of Bigfoot +4. So cool to see that the players that, they took a little bit of a break, they're coming back, they're playing, and they're earning a little bit of money. Again, I would love for these cash cups to have a little bit more, especially for the regions that aren't guaranteed to qualify, aren't guaranteed anything. It's really cool that they still exist, but please pay them more, because it incentivizes them to continue to grow to the point where it's worth having a zone, what is it, a group stage there.
And then comes a region that I'm so bad. So I was gonna do this, and I messaged the ANZ Female CS Discord, and I'm like, are y'all playing in the Cash Cup this week? Nobody responded.
Of course.
And then they responded at like 1 a.m, an hour before the tournament. I was like, yeah, we're gonna play. And first
you're
off,
asleep.
I'm out, because it's either, because it's like, it's 1 a.m for me. And so I was like, I need to know whether to set my alarm for 1:30. So I looked, and I'm like, they haven't signed up. Nobody responded. I'm just going to not set my alarm.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like it's happening. Then it happens. Okay. And I think Bones said it like, oh, Benny's going to be so mad, because we get a series that's not Mirage, Inferno, and Overpass. We get Nuke and Ancient. And not only that, it's two teams. Pingu is Dead, which is a hybrid of Newt, because all the girls from Newt couldn't play. So it's Artemis, Wolf, Chicken Loaf, Soko, Evelyn.
Yeah.
And then Treads, the normal Treads side, we got Maddie, Bones, Barf, Aria, Red Ribbon this time now. So one replacement. And unlike the previous editions, Treads win. Treads have won. So this is the first non-Newt winning Cash Cup since February 4th. And it was a 16-9 on Nuke, 16-12 on Ancient. Inferno was the decider, but we never needed it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've missed the one Cash Cup I don't commentate is the one bit of variance. Variety's the spice of life. The one spice is in Oceania, and I miss it. I was so upset. But no, congratulations to Treads. Bones was super happy, I know, as well. So great to see that they, were able to take another Cash Cup, because I believe they came in as the hybrid side that was Angels that won that last February 4th Cash Cup. Because if you look at the history, it's been pretty much Newt the entire way. But no, a different winner in Oceania.
And that's cool too. Something else that I saw, at least briefly, was IESF they're actually going to have a finals there between New Zealand and Australia, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So I guess we'll keep an eye out on that. At the same time, that is all the Cash Cups done. We got through that pretty quickly, luckily enough. That gives you plenty of time to talk about Liga Feminina. And honestly, I'm just going to kind of let you roll, because I did my best to watch, but at the same time, I did a lot of other things. And a big shout out to this. You were doing it on the LCA broadcasting channel. And I think that was really cool, because, you usually would expect us to do it on our individual channels, but no, you.
Yes, and I would have loved to do it on my individual channel, but I thought it would be neat to do it on the LCA channel.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be good for LCA as well.
Yeah, so, no, I think that got a lot more eyes on towards LCA, which is cool. I always like helping out the org that pays us to do casting, which is nice. And, and paid for these graphics, and paid for a lot of other stuff. So we'll keep them happy.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. It was a lot of fun. So the thing to note is the format, right? And the format is group stage, plus knockout round, right? Group stage, single round robin, and top 2 from each group advance. So it's like a World Cup style tournament, if you would, right? But it's double elimination playoffs. The big thing with Liga Feminina you have to know is that there are 2 editions, and then there's a Masters Feminina. So you get the first edition, second edition, Masters Feminina 7. Then you're going to get the 3rd edition, 4th edition, Masters Feminina 8. The winner of the Liga Femininas are qualified for Masters Feminina automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So the winner of the 1st edition will be the number 1 seed. The winner of the 2nd edition will be the number 2 seed, right? The 2nd place and 3rd place teams will get into the closed qualifier. There will only be 8 teams that get into the closed qualifier. So they'll take the 4 second to 3rd place teams, right? Plus, they'll run 2 open qualifiers with the top 2 from each open qualifier making the closed qualifier. That gives you 8 teams to the closed qualifier, right? Then they will take the top 4 teams from that closed qualifier, and those are the teams that make Masters Feminina, right?
Okay.
The 2 that win Liga Feminina get a first round bye.
Yeah.
And then the 4 that came from the closed qualifier play each other. That whole tournament's double elimination. Masters Feminina is a bigger prize pool. It's like 30 to 60,000, depending. U.S. dollars, by the way, depending on,
who's there,
how much money the sponsors and organizers want to put up.
Right.
So it's a whole league system. That's the important thing. This isn't just like an online league and a LAN. Like ESL has a league system, and it's a decent league system. It gets you playing for 6 weeks, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this I like is because there's multiple ways to get into the tournament. You're playing a lot of Counter-Strike. Pug teams feel welcome because they can have a go at these group stages because top 2 make it out. So you got 2 teams, 2 groups with 3 teams, 2 groups with 4 teams, right?
Yeah.
Group A, B4, Maiden Pug, Dream Team, Coville. B4 and the Maiden Pug came out of this group. B4 is the number 1 seed. Maiden Pug is the number 2 seed.
Yep.
Dream Team finished 3rd, Coville 4th. Group B, Furia, No Orc, which is XLRV.
Yep.
Mooncats, and W7M.
Mm-hmm.
W7M lost to No Org, and then lost to Furia and just forfeited against Mooncats because there's no reason to play the game. You're out. You know what I mean? At that point. So W7M actually didn't make it. So it's Furia and No Org, or XLRV, that made it through.
Yeah.
Group C, Black Dragons, Divina, and Avengers. That was how they finished. Black Dragons beat Divina. Divina beat Avengers.
Yep.
Done. On Group 4, MIBR, Simplano, and Fakeson. Fakeson was actually a Paraguayan side.
Oh.
And they finished bottom of the group.
Yes.
Simplano basically beat them. So it was like, well, if Fakeson wants a chance, then they have to beat MIBR, and they just forfeited. They just thought there was no chance. So you get your playoffs: Black Dragons versus Simplano, Furia versus Divina, B4 versus Simplano, Furia versus Divina, Black Dragons versus No Org, and MIVR versus Maiden Pug.
Yes.
Everything is best of 1. Group stage playoffs. The only thing that's best of 3
is the finals.
Lower bracket final and the grand final. That's it. Everything else is best of 1. So Black Dragons steamrolled Simplano. 16-0. They go through. Furia withdrew from the event after the group stage, oddly enough.
Yeah.
So Divina got a walkover on them.
Yep. And then
Black Dragons beat. Yep. Black Dragons beat. Yeah, that's true. Black Dragons beat No Org 16-10.
Yep.
So Black Dragons go to the winner's semi. MIBR beat Maiden Pug 16-2. Was very handily. That was on Inferno as well.
Yep.
That 16-2. So MIBR go through to the upper bracket semi. So the lower bracket semi: Simplano versus Furia, No Org versus. Lower bracket first round: Simplano versus Furia, No Org versus Maiden Pug.
Yeah.
Furia withdrew, so Simplano go through to the lower bracket quarters automatically. Maiden Pug, Bittner's team. Now this team is good. This is 11 is on this team. Who else is on this team? Goya is on this team. Any, which I think her like full Twitter name is like Anyzenia.
Yeah.
Lay is on this team. Lerigo, who's a very, I believe, veteran player, is on this team as well. Bittner's coaching them. And they beat No Org 16-13.
Yes, I see that.
So Maiden Pug beat the first, like, I don't want to call them signed team because they weren't signed, but like an actual team
that had been signed at one point.
Yeah, they've been backed by an org for a while. So upper bracket semis, B4 rolled Davina, like you said, 16-1.
Yeah.
And Black Dragons played MIBR in an insanely tight Inferno,
Yes.
1917. So B4 versus Black Dragons was the upper bracket final. That gave Simplano versus MIBR, Maiden Pug versus Davina in the lower bracket quarters. MIBR 16-0 Simplano. So Simplano won one game over Fakeson and went 0-32 in the playoffs.
I love CS.
I know, right? It's crazy. Maiden Pug had to play Davina, and they beat Davina 16-14. So that's the second org that they took down, right?
Yep.
So that made the lower bracket semi MAPR versus Maiden Pug. The winner was guaranteed a spot in the closed qualifier. They
Yeah.
played Inferno again, and Maiden Pug were pretty far out of it. I want to say it was like 11-4 half or whatever, but they fought to a 16-9 loss,
That's
which
pretty good.
I thought they looked pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'd
yo,
say
this
that's
team
pretty good.
actually. Like, so the reason I shine the light on Maiden Pug so much is not because I love Bittner so much, and I do, but this team looks good. Like, this is a team that I'm looking at going, you know what?
There's potential.
Maybe this is a team that potentially, if they have results like this and they get a draw like this in, say, an open or a closed qualifier, they could make Masters Feminina. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, this isn't bad. Sure, Furia weren't in the event. W7M went out early, but I'm looking at it going, they're okay. So they're not better than B4, Black Dragons, or MIBR right now, right? Furia withdrew from the event. W7M got knocked out in groups, but there is a 16 that gets into Masters Feminina, and I don't see a reason why it couldn't be Maiden Pug. So I'm definitely keeping an eye
For
on
sure.
this team
You keep an eye
going
out for
forward. Yeah. So the last results, by the way, B4 and Black Dragons, 16-14 for B4 in the upper bracket. They played Ancient, and Black Dragons, I think, were really trying to storm back in that game, if I remember correctly. But it was a pretty tight affair. That was a really intense affair. Actually, no, B4 came from behind to win that. I think they were down like 14-12 or 14-11.
Yeah.
Came back and won it. So it set up MIBR versus Black Dragons in the lower round. Nuke, Mirage, and Inferno. Now remember, they played the banger Inferno already, the 1917 in the upper bracket, right?
Right.
But they get to the Nuke, and it was 16-14 for Black Dragons. That doesn't tell the whole story, because Black Dragons were way, and I mean way, out in front. It was 14-5 at one point in this game. And MIBR somehow pulled 9 rounds in a row out and then fell short right at the very end. Like, it was one of those things where they looked so good, so potentially able to complete that comeback, and then Black Dragons shut the door.
Yeah.
So they went to Mirage, and they played out a banger Mirage 16-13. It was the best series all tournament long.
Yeah.
And Black Dragons beat MIBR and go through for the rematch in the grand final. We get the Nuke, and that was back and forth the whole way. Black Dragons, they started well. I think they were like 5-1 up, right? But it's like, that's still pretty early in the game, so it's like, it's not, huge lead the right home about. It's not 14-5, but 16-13 for B4 on the Nuke.
Yep.
And they looked good, but Black Dragons were really strong on that map. So I'm looking at Black Dragons in this Nuke going, yeah, it's definitely a map. But then they played Vertigo. And if you notice in the bans, in the vetoes, Black Dragons always kind of vetoed it like third for the best of ones. It wasn't a map they're really willing to play. It's not a map they really play that often. So when they got to the Vertigo, B4 kind of rolled them 16-5. And B4 have won Liga Feminina. It means two things. Number one, this Black Dragon sign's looking really good. Like, now I'm like, I even tweeted like, oh, they could be number 2 in Brazil. They might be number 2 in Brazil. Forget the head-on-head. I know they already beat Furia once in the head-on-head. I was like, I told Newt, I was like, I'm looking for it again. But I'm like, you know what? This team's shown enough on Nuke and on like Mirage and Inferno that I'm like, there's you could definitely see why they beat Furia in the Impact playoffs, because it's like, this team's coming on really strong. B4 though, they're the defending champs, and they automatically qualify for Master. They have a chance to defend that title now, Poppins was the MVP, by the way, of
Yeah,
this
I was just
tournament.
about to mention. I pulled up the stats here. Poppins coming
Yeah,
through with the highest ADR of the stack, 99 ADR. So we're
yeah,
singing,
insane.
we're seeing a mini.
Look at the rounds too. 99 ADR for 170 rounds of
Yes,
play.
170 rounds. The only person that played more rounds that I can see in this list, there's two that played more rounds. Both of them were on Black Dragons. It was Babs and Anna X. And their ADR
Yep.
as well. You know what? Babs actually had a really good ADR still of 94.77. So keep an eye on Babs. Is something to
Yeah,
keep
she
an
had
eye
a phenomenal tournament for
on. And
Black Dragons.
Anna X with a whole 240 rounds as well and 88. So not as impactful, but like the kills per round coming through as well.
I mean, hey, if you're
Huge.
going to give 88 ADR over 241 rounds,
Oh
I
my
would take that
gosh, you
every
take that.
single day of the week. Yeah, 100%. So Junger was really impressive as
Yes.
well. Um, Lay, the one thing for Black Dragons to look out for too is Lay on Inferno. She's not on this top 10, but and no, she wasn't as impactful maybe as Bob's all tournament long, but
Right.
her Inferno looked dynamite. And she was a big reason why they got past MIBR because she absolutely took over that Inferno. But the one other thing I want to point about the stats, Parks, is look at who's in 10th.
11.
Yeah, that was the joke
That's
that
a good
Nessie
joke.
already made
That's a
that joke
good
on
joke.
Twitter.
That's a good
Yeah,
joke.
Nessie posted that joke on Twitter already. I was like, all right, cool.
Look who's in number
But
10. 11.
yeah,
And
but this is a pug team.
you have a
And
player in the top 10.
this is a rifler on a pug team who's putting up 89.5 ADR in
Yeah.
169 map or rounds, I should say.
Yeah.
So very, very, very solid performance from her. I think that's really something to watch out for. She's definitely becoming a better Counter-Strike player, I should say, over the years that I've or at least months that I've seen her play. So really, it was a fantastic tournament. It was a long Sunday, I know that,
Yes.
but
Yes.
really, before I think this is a team that you've got to watch it, Dallas. Like Nigma have been very, and we'll get into that. Obviously, the Dallas preview is probably going to be the next episode or whatnot. But Nigma could be very mortal, having dropped maps to Black Dragons. They've dropped 2 series in a row to NIP. Spoiler, like if Nigma aren't on their A game, like this is the team I'm thinking will take them down.
B4?
Because yes,
Yeah.
because NIP have in Europe twice.
Yes.
Nobody else in Europe has. But Black Dragons have taken a map off of them. Fury have taken a map off of them. They're really the only other teams that have taken a map off of them. There's so the teams that have taken maps off Nigma that I can think of right now are Black Dragons, Furia, Navi, and NIP. I think B4 could be the 5th, and I think B4 could take a series off them at Dallas. That's I'm bold predictions for the preview episode, Park. Bold predictions for the preview episode. But yes, I think this is definitely a team that's looking really good. If Poppins plays like this at Dallas, I mean, this is. And Junger is continually playing as well. She plays like that at Dallas as well. Give it to him. Give it to him. Give him a trophy. I want to see it. If CLG Red are not, if ex-CLG Red are not going to win at Dallas, this is the team I want to see win this trophy.
All right. Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head there when we're getting towards the end there. What you're watching, you're going to be watching a lot of B4, I guess, keeping an eye on them.
I'm going to be watching 2 things.
Yeah.
The first is, well, the Cash Cup, because we got that. I'm going to be watching plane ticket prices, my friend. That's one.
That's the big one.
That's one. Number 2 is I'm going to be watching the second leg of the Champions League semifinal tomorrow night. Come on, I hope we win, Parks. I would love to go to a Champions League final.
Listen, man, I'm very hopeful for you because I know how much it means to you.
But Parks, what are you watching?
What am I watching? I'm not watching much. I'll be honest. I have been
aside from the NHL playoffs.
Oh my god, I've been watching a lot of hockey. Yes, playoff hockey kills any motivation to do anything else because I want to sit there for 3 hours and just absolutely stress. Watching Game 6 of the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, man, I could feel my heart rate as if I had been running for a good 20-30 minutes. So it's one of those things. No, in terms of what I'm watching CS wise, I'm doing a lot of casting for advanced stuff. I'm trying my best to keep up with the teams, but I can't. My so much time is now being
Yeah.
invested into other stuff. I do not. I have to have my own personal time. I'm discovering, and that means I have to stay away from CS. I have to do other things because
Yeah.
otherwise I will go clinically insane. Like I probably will be tonight when I have to do all this after playing for a team because they needed a sub. I for some reason decided I was going to help them out, and that is
I
coming
don't know
up
why
in.
Parks, but
It's coming up
your
in 45
plays. I
minutes.
saw. I watched that stream over the weekend. You
Oh
playing
yeah,
pretty good, bro.
yeah, in level
You're
one
not bad.
pugs. In level one pugs, this is not going to be the same
Hey, it
thing.
don't
I'm
matter. It don't matter.
Benikage.
It don't matter. It's all about winning the game, my
It's all
friend.
about
Don't mean a
winning.
thing if you don't get that ring. You can be
That's
level
for
10.
sure.
Don't matter.
You know what? You're very right. And on that note, Benny cannot be right without the episode immediately ending afterwards. So we're gonna get out of here. Enjoy your time. We will have a special episode coming up next week, I think.
Yes,
We have
we'll
a
work
special
on it.
guest. We're cooking. We're cooking.
We cooking.
We take a little bit of time. And as well as you mentioned it, we have the preview for Dallas will be coming up in the next few weeks as well because it is the start of May. And oh my gosh, there's so much happening.
I know.
I'm gonna run out of time to do
Dallas, my
things.
friend. Dallas.
Dallas. Till then, in 2 weeks' time. I'm gonna say 2 weeks' time because this is the actual main line.
Yes.
We got like
in 2
parallel
weeks'
lines
time.
of
In a fortnight.
podcasts. Yes, we'll be back. Thank you very much for watching, and until then, bye for now.